Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining me. This is the inaugural episode of the LJN review. As you guys know, for the next couple of weeks, my goal is to go back and kind of do a review on some of my favorite toy lines. And we are going to start with LJN, kind of work our way through the AWA Remcos, possibly the WWF Hasbros. But because I still have the Hasbro tournament in process, I might not do that right off the bat. I might wait until after that tournament is complete before I do those reviews. But we still got the WCW Galoob as well, so that's probably going to be something I want to work on probably throughout the month of March in conjunction with the Hasbro tournament. So today's review, the LJN figures consisted of 9 wrestlers in Series 1. Your initial set consisted of what most people refer to as the Big Five. There was 5 wrestlers on the original card backing, and then later on they added an additional 4 wrestlers that concluded Series 1. And of course you moved on additional series 6 wrestlers in Series 2. I think there was like 17 in Series 3, etc. And so, for this particular video, I'm only going to look at the initial 5 wrestlers. And I want to try my best to keep these videos to around 20 minutes. I think it's going to make it a lot easier on you guys to be able to watch these videos. Especially if I keep posting these every single day. It's going to be a lot easier to watch a 20-minute video, you know, day after day, as opposed to trying to watch a 30 or 40 minute video daily or every other day, whatnot. So let's dive right in. So one thing I really love about LJN, Series 1 truly did some remarkable things with their wrestlers. So the first figure we are looking at is Andre the Giant. Now, this one here, I didn't even notice. This one actually is not a 5-back. And I thought I did have a 5-back on this one. That's okay. But, as you know, sometimes you'll come across a Series 1 figure. Sometimes they'll have a 5-back, an 8-back, a 13-back. Obviously, the 5-back is the one that you really want. This figure with a 5-back, you're probably looking at maybe $800. You could go on eBay right now. You probably look at as high as like $2,800 listed price. Would it sell for that price? Probably not. Who knows? You can find one for like a 13-back selling for $350 on Mercari. So it really depends on who the seller is and what kind of figure you're getting. For me, I really could care less. It's more important just to have a figure and to have them carded. So the actual design of the backing, I never really, as a kid, really appreciated the actual box or the packaging. Not until you really got into adulthood and you actually started paying attention to the actual graphics. So some of the things that LJN did really phenomenal with their packaging. Obviously, the graphics and design of the box is really amazing. They come with these little posters inside with the package, as well as a poster protecting case, which is, you know, an additional piece, which is pretty amazing. And I love the little stickers giving you the little name of the wrestler as well. Which is pretty interesting is back in the 80s, these figures probably sold for around $5, maybe $7. By today's standards, if you actually go to like Ringside Collectibles or go to a Target or a Walmart or something, and you know your Mattel Elites, those figures, to me, I'm not a fan of those type of figures. They don't do anything for me. Those particular figures sell for over $20 today. And I look at them, I think of them as like $5 figures, right? And I look at this figure and I'm like, if this figure never came out in the 1980s, if this was released for the very first time, today, 2010, 2015, 2020, what have you, I truly believe this size figure made of rubber, this would probably be like $100 figure. If you went into a Walmart or something and tried buying this figure today, I think this would be on the shelves for like $100. Best case scenario, $50. I just don't see this being on the shelves for $10, $20, $30, So seeing these on shelves back in the day for, less than $10, amazing. So they have a release date of 1984 through 89 for this series, but realistically, I think most of these figures came out in 85. When you actually look at the actual figures loose, I think they do have on here stenciled 1984. But essentially, these all figures are going to come off of my primary display. None of them are really truly mint condition. That's fine. Again, they're just something for display purposes. They're decent figures. For most people, they really don't think that the Andre the Giant really does him justice. With the way that the knees are bent, the elongated arms, again, the big forehead, elongated face. Andre the Giant had very long, lush hair, and to me, that is an early 1980s pre-haircut Andre the Giant, and that is a beautiful figure. To me, this is a top 3 of every single 70 plus, nearly 80 figures, when you throw in all the variants of LJN that they made. This is one of the 3 greatest LJN figures ever made. And when I hear people say that this is not a good figure, I know we all have our own opinions, but to me, I hate hearing that. I love this figure. It is a beauty. It's one of my favorites. Great fighting, perfect fighting pose, a good look to him. I'm glad to have it. Again, LJN in Series 1. They have a lot of really bad figures, but this is one of the elite figures that they came out with. Truly great piece. Andre the Giant, one of your original 5. The first 5-back I ever acquired was Big John Studd. So, Big John Studd, I guess I'm still classifying him, for the sake of argument, as my all-time favorite LJN original figure. Obviously, with customs, there are a lot of customs out there. I guess I do like a little bit better, but... So, then this is what I'm talking about. This original 5, that would take a... If this was like an 8-back or a 13-back, and this would take him from like a $200-$300 figure to like an $800 figure, just because of this. What probably you'll find with a lot of these original 5-backs is, and you'll see with all of my figures here, all of the bubbles are yellowing. To find one with clear bubble, yeah, you're gonna look at a north of $1,000 to acquire any of these figures if they have clear bubbles. So, an absolute beautiful piece. And not only was this important for me to get this figure on card because, 1, he's my favorite LJN, and 2, he was a 5-back, but I absolutely love the figures that are huge. They're absolutely bulky. Your Steel, your Bundy, your Kamala, you Ken Patera, those figures. I love the bulky figures, Andre the Giant. So this was a huge piece for me to acquire. Absolutely love Big John Studd. So Big John Studd, he's very similar to Andre the Giant in the sense that they both have very similar arms spread apart type of stance. Also with the legs bent. What I love about them, and I'm not going to wrestle these guys, but for the sake of argument, this is what I'm talking about. Perfect body slam pose, right? But look at Andre the Giant. You see how he's got that stance where he's being body slammed? Same thing with Studd. So it's not just, what do I always talk about? It's not just about the perfect body slam pose, but it's about having a perfect to be body slam pose. So that's why fighting poses are always so important to me. So this is very reminiscent of the real life Big John Studd. The hair of the figure blends in so beautifully with the real life beard of the actual wrestler, and it's just an absolute beauty. With the white pants and the stars, an absolute perfect replica to the real life person. And this is 1980s. This isn't 3D printed or anything. And looking at something that's 40 years old and just how well that they've crafted these figures, absolutely remarkable. They could not have done any better with this figure. An absolute perfect design. And another thing I absolutely loved about this, why I really gravitated toward this figure. So growing up, born in 85, right? So I never had LJN as a kid. I didn't even know about LJN up until about a few years ago. And I think I wanted LJN when I heard about them for nostalgic reasons. I was really going to go in on Hasbro because that's what I grew up with. And I was going to get a few figures here and there if I could. And I figured, you know what? Let me pick up a few LJN figures. I didn't know how many I was going to get, but once I really started coveting the figures, I decided to start going all in on them. And what was I going with it? I'm telling you guys, I got memory loss bad, and every time I try to make a point, I always kind of like lose where my focal point. So I didn't have these as a kid, and I gotta pause. Only because I seriously forgot what I was saying, and it sucks. Sorry, I talked about in one of the last videos that I was like, memory loss was getting worse and worse with each passing day, and this is just one example. I mean, nothing even really happened, but anyways. In the 90s, we had Hasbro, we had Galoob, and Sid Vicious. This right here was very reminiscent of the Sid Vicious figure, with the fighting pose, and so that's why I coveted this figure so much. Is because he reminded me of that figure. I absolutely love the Sid Vicious figure. It's, to this day, it still is probably my all-time favorite figure because, for nostalgic reasons. And so, again, another reason why I gravitated towards this one so much. Anyways, Big John Studd, perfect figure. The most coveted and beloved figure and wrestler in history, the greatest world's champion, Hulk Hogan. Now, oddly enough, you see Hulk Hogan on card, especially a 5-back, and I none of these figures, I didn't pay any outrageous price for any of these figures. Like Hulk Hogan, I've seen these things sell on auction for over $1,000 on a consistent basis. I think I got this one for like $350 or something, $400. I can't remember the exact price. But I would say $300, $350, somewhere in that price range. And maybe it's because the card is bent. I mean, obviously, if it was like a mint card, maybe it would have gone for $1,000. Maybe it's because the bubble is yellow. I don't know. But Hulk Hogan, man, it just to get this was such a dream come true because we already know Hulk Hogan's my all-time favorite wrestler, and not only was it important to get Hulk Hogan on card, to this day I still say that Hulk Hogan fighting pose, the way that his arms are situated, is the number one greatest fighting pose of any LJN wrestler. And yes, I still covet Big John Studd. If you're sitting there and you're wrestling these guys, this is a beast of a figure because he's so bulky. You can really just pummel on any of the other wrestlers. And, you know, Hulk Hogan, they make him like really thin and scrawny, kind of. So that's why to me it's like a lot of fun to actually sit there, and if you want to wrestle the figures, to really use Big John Studd. You can really hammer on some guys. Fighting pose wise, based on the arm positioning, Hulk Hogan is the most perfect of any of the other LJNs. That's why I had him listed as my second all-time favorite LJN. I have Big John Studd at number 1, Hogan 2, Andre the Giant at number 3. But there is a reason why I say I have those 3 guys at my top 3 slots. Like I said, LJN, their Series 1 figures were so absolutely perfect. The difference between LJN and Hasbro, it really took them a while to get themselves situated. Hasbro had a lot of really good Series 1 and Series 2 figures, but more bad Series 1 and 2 than good, I would say. Their figures didn't really take off until Series 3 and onward. LJN, their Series 1 figures were the greatest of the entire series, or the entire line. And then from Series 2 onward, they kind of went downhill. And then it wasn't until Series 6 when it kind of picked up again. But Hulk Hogan, one of the bad things with this figure, I guess, because if you're a kid, you can imagine, you're always dropping the leg, right? So, not on my figures, of course, but you could always imagine that if you're going to be dropping a leg on someone, you're always extending the leg, so you're extending the rubber. So you're probably going to end up getting like holes back here, tearing the rubber, but it didn't really happen here, so that's nice. But this is a beautiful looking figure. I absolutely, truly love the Hulk Hogan figure. Yeah, not too much more to say about the Hogan. I mean, it's... well, I would have liked if they made him a little bit more bulky, but I mean, the truest hero. I mean, the man knew how to work a crowd. I love going back and watching old Coliseum videos, or getting on YouTube and watching, old matches and stuff. His music videos. It's just his stuff is so good, man. He's just such a positive attitude. I don't like hearing negative things said about him because this man is childhood. This man's a legend in my eyes. Next up, we've got the Iron Sheik. Now, this is possibly one of the crispest cards I have. And, but, the card, really nice shape. Another 5-back. And the Iron Sheik is one of the truest essence of the word heel. So, if you're a kid and you're wrestling this guy, he's going to have the most scuffed up and most abused figures ever. Why? Because he's a huge heel. You might be a huge fan of the character because you love to hate him because he's such a bad guy. You love to probably have those little Hogan and Sheik championship matches. What's Hogan winning from him? Yep. So Bob Backlund, champion, Iron Sheik defeats him. Champion for about a month or so. Hogan comes in, takes over the championship. And I put these green belts on a few different wrestlers. I wanted it for Hogan, but then I'm like, you know what? In the original packaging, Hogan has the black championship belt, so I just left a black championship belt on the green, on the loose one. So, and I bought, a bunch of different green belts. So obviously one for Sheik and additional green belts I put on like Macho Man, Big John Studd. I got a couple others just laying around. I'm not even sure who I put those on, but so Iron Sheik, and this is where I kind of like draw the line. The first three figures we looked at, three of the greatest figures you're going to find in the entire LJN line. And then we look at the Iron Sheik. One of the absolute worst figures you will find. This is an absolute trash figure. I despise it. I absolutely despise it. From this point, from the waist down, perfect. The design of the pants is absolutely phenomenal. I absolutely love the dual color boots, and the fact that they even got the little elf point on the tip of the boots, perfect. The face, I mean, the head mold, and everything is great. Even the torso, your chest, stomach, and everything is great. If they were to cut these arms off and give him like Big John Studd or Hulk Hogan arms or something, just kind of like just rearrange the arms. If they were to like do this or something with the arms, it would have been fine. But they give him this terrible fighting pose that you can't really use as a serviceable wrestler, and it detracts from the overall appearance of the wrestler. As a display piece, a beautiful figure, no doubt. As a serviceable action figure for play, as an actual wrestler, you can't do anything with this, and it's one of my least favorite figures. A top 10 worst action figure from LJN. And, yeah, I mean, what can you do? He drops an elbow, that's it. Maybe, get somebody in like a DDT or something. Last March, when I started this channel, I started this channel because I wanted to do my very first LJN tournament, and I never had LJN, so I had no experience with these figures. So I kind of played these figures just to kind of get a feel for them, to see how they actually worked. And I had a ton of duplicates, so I wrestled the duplicates I had. And even though I had all the figures, I didn't have duplicates for everything, so I only wrestled the duplicates. And so when I did that tournament, I obviously talked about playability and what I liked about the figures and everything. Some figures like Don Morocco, who I always thought was awesome. Looking at him, great pose, and then I played him, and he sucked. This just was not a fun figure at all. And, no. Iron Sheik. Looks good. Terrible play pose. So, like I said, the LJN Series 1 had so many great figures. A ton in my top 10 favorite. But they also have a ton in my top 10 least favorite. So, last figure from the top 5, or the big 5, is Jimmy Snuka. Yes, I actually broke down and bought a Jimmy Snuka. I would say that this is the most expensive figure I ever bought. I did buy this a couple weeks ago, and I paid $750 for it. That's a purchase price. But recently, I just shelled out about $4,000 on PayPal, so with PayPal fees like 41 and change, 4,200, whatever. But I bought like 5 figures in cases, so including Jake Roberts, Coco Beware, RCD, and a couple other figures, Axe. So I don't know, Jake Roberts out of that was probably valued at like $1,300. So I don't know. It was a bundle, so I can't really say individually what the price of those were. So for the sake of argument, I'm calling this the most expensive I've ever bought. Jimmy Snuka, again, another yellowing of the card. He is a 5-back, which is great. And this is what I'm talking about. One of the absolute worst figures. The wrestler from Fiji. So, what do I like about this figure, and what do I dislike about Jimmy Snuka? Well, growing up with Hasbro, I actually remember Jimmy Snuka, so that's something. They got the leopard print underwear. You know, he never wore shoes in the ring, so I like that. That's about it. I mean, this figure really, I mean, he's tiny in comparison to, I don't know, let's use Hulk Hogan. He's like super small. He's crazy thin. And take all that away, look at this. Right? I know I classify Rick Rude as the worst LJN because Rick Rude's arms are molded to his side and he basically doesn't do anything. He can't even drop an elbow. He has no playable fighting technique, no attributes whatsoever. You know, guys like Ron Simmons from Galoob or Jimmy Snuka, Iron Sheik from LJN, what do? They can at least drop an elbow, so you at least have one attribute. But still, I mean, you take away the Rick Rude, this right here becomes the worst LJN ever made. This is absolute trash. I don't know why they do this. This is an absolutely despicable figure. And like I said, I will keep repeating it. I'll probably repeat it several times throughout my videos. Series 1 came out with some of the greatest, but they've also come out with some of the worst. And in my next video, when I conclude the rest of Series 1, you're going to hear that a couple more times because there's still a few more really bad figures. Well, a couple more really bad figures. Jimmy Snuka. I'm sorry, guys. We're like 27 minutes right now. I really didn't think that this 5 figures would take 30 minutes. I was really thinking it was going to take 20. So I'm glad I didn't do all 9 figures because that would have taken like 50 minutes then or an hour. So that is the original 5 from Series 1. I am going to stay down here. My goal is to make 3 or 4 videos today. And hopefully get if not post them day after day, at least get them posted every other day. But I like to try and get these out to you guys as soon as possible. So, alright everybody, thank you for watching, and I will talk to you in the comments per usual. Bye everyone.